Hey Spark, I hope you are well. I want to continue our series, Community Conversations, Ingredients to Build Strong Communities. Community Conversations, Ingredients to Build Strong Communities. This is part 2 of this series, and it is a hard part. It's a part that is difficult to talk about, so I want to just jump right into it the best way I know how. Back in February, our own Trey Floyd has a production studio, Trey Floyd Productions, and Trey invited our church out to his stage play, Before Black Lives Matter. If you look back in February, 14 of us went to that play. It's a great play when it comes to your city. If you're watching this and you aren't from our church, go see it when it comes to your city. It's a great play, a hard play. And I remember sitting there thinking about how this conversation was so necessary. And then I remember that next week, Trey came to our group and talked to us and debriefed with us about the play. And I sat at home that evening after that debrief, and I thought about the play and the debrief, and I said to myself, there will come a time in the near future where we have to talk about, as a youth group, these issues, not from a theoretical place, from a lived place of where it's actually happening in our community. I didn't think that my words would come true so fast. But as you undoubtedly know, we have spent the last part of this week thinking about Ahmaud Arbery and what happened in Brunswick, Georgia. This tragic reality of white supremacy tells us once again that we live in a world that is not yet united and that this country is still ever divided. And I thought this week, what can I say to Spark? How can I inspire hope in a time like this? How can I talk about God and God's love for us in a time like this? How can I talk about community in a time like this? And I sat and I wrestled all week, and I said, to talk about community right now means this. And here's today's theme. We have to have a mission larger than ourselves. We have to have a mission larger than ourselves to be community. Now, so many of us have dreams and goals and talents that God has put inside of us. For some of us, it's to work hard during our high school years, to stay in the gym, to be great on the field so that one day we can become pro. That's why you spend hours lifting weights, you spend hours in the gym so that one day you can become pro. For some of us, it's to bless the world through dance. And so you spend time always working out, always practicing your steps so that one day you can become a famous dancer. For some of us, it's to be a scholar. You love to read and write. So you spend your time devouring books and writing so that one day we are sitting reading your works. For some of us, it's to simply get out of school and you're just like, I'll figure it out later. For some of us, it's to be a nurse or a doctor so that you can bless the world through healing. And all of those gifts and talents are great, but there are times like this one where we have to say, my gifts and talents have to be put to the service of a work larger than myself. The first 20 Africans came to this country in 1619. And since 1619, Africans and African Americans have been fighting the fight against racial oppression, against white supremacy. And I think sometimes what derails that fight is our individual passions and goals take precedent over what's good for the whole. Now, I will agree that this is hard work to put our individual passions and goals aside for the collective. But times like these, times when we are reminded afresh that we are not safe. Times where we are reminded that white supremacy still seeks to destroy the black body. We're reminded that sometimes the collective has to take precedent over the individual. There are times where this is necessary, and it's times like these. And so I'm reminded that we need an image to help us think about how to do this work, because this is hard work. It's not easy to put aside our own dreams and our own goals for the collective. And so I think here is where the Apostle Paul helps us. So if you have your Bibles, go with me real quick to 1 Corinthians 12. 1 Corinthians 12, 14 through 18, because here Paul helps us think about how to do the work of coming together to be a collective for a mission larger than ourselves. So 1 Corinthians 12, 14, 18. Hear what Paul says to us. Paul says, indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but many. If the foot would say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear would say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole body were hearing, where would the sense of smell be? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as God chooses. In this moment, with this renewed call for Black lives, we are reminded that we are not one member, but many. God has arranged this group together for such a time as this. And if we are one body, then we have one purpose. Just like your body has one purpose, it is to fulfill what God has put inside of it. We have one purpose. It is to do what God has called us to do. In this time right now, we are called to address this issue. We are called to address white supremacy and racial oppression. We are called to put our gifts and talents to that one goal. So this week, I want you to ask yourself two questions. If this youth group were one body, what gifts and talents do you bring to that body? Again, if this group were one body, what gifts and talents do you bring to that body? That's part one. Part two, how can we, as this one body, address the issue of racial oppression and white supremacy? How can this one body address the issue of racial oppression and white supremacy? This is a tough conversation. It's tough work to do the work of dismantling white supremacy and racial oppression. But Paul tells us that God has arranged us as one body for one purpose. And so I pray this week that you wrestle with the fact that we are one body doing the work that God has called us to do. Be blessed and stay encouraged, Spark. I'll see you soon.